Chapter 11. I think he must have fallen asleep. I did, eventually, and walked to the landing gear coming down. My mouth tasted horrible, and I tried to keep it shut for fear of poisoning the airplane. I looked over at Augustus, who was staring out the window, and as we dipped below the low hung clouds, I straightened my back to see the Netherlands. The land seemed sunk into the ocean. Little rectangles of green surrounded on all sides by canals. We landed, in fact, parallel to a canal, like there were two runways, one for us and one for Waterfall. After getting our bags and clearing customs, we all piled into a taxi driven by this doughy bald guy who spoke perfect English, like better English than I do. The hotel philosophe? I said. And he said, "You're Americans?" "Yes," Mom said. "We're from Indiana." "Indiana," he said. "They steal the land from the Indians and leave the name, yes?" "Something like that," Mom said. The cabbie pulled out into traffic and we headed toward a highway with lots of blue signs featuring double balls. Oosthuizen, Haarlem. Beside the highway, flat empty land stretched for miles, interrupted by the occasional huge corporate headquarters. In short, Holland looked like Indianapolis, only with smaller cars. "This is Amsterdam?" I asked the cab driver. "Yes and no," he answered. "Amsterdam is like the rings of a tree. It gets older as you get closer to the center." It happened all at once. We exited the highway, and there were the row houses of my imagination leaning precariously toward canals, ubiquitous bicycles, and coffee shops advertising large smoking room. We drove over a canal, and from atop the bridge I could see dozens of houseboats moored along the water. It looked nothing like America. It looked like an old painting, but real, everything achingly idyllic in the morning light. And I thought about how wonderfully strange it would be to live in a place where almost everything had been built by the dead. "Are these houses very old?" asked my mom. "Many of the canal houses date from the Golden Age, the 17th century," he said. "Our city has a rich history, even though many tourists are only wanting to see the red light district." He paused. "Some tourists think Amsterdam is a city of sin, but in truth it is a city of freedom. And in freedom, most people find sin." All the rooms in the Hotel Philosophe were named after philosophers. Mom and I were staying on the ground floor in the Kierkegaard. Augustus was on the floor above us in the Heidegger. Our room was small, a double bed pressed against the wall with my BiPAP machine, an oxygen concentrator, and a dozen refillable oxygen tanks at the foot of the bed. Past the equipment, there was a dusty old paisley chair with a sagging seat, a desk, and a bookshelf above the bed containing the collected works of Soren Kierkegaard. On the desk we found a wicker basket full of presents from the genies: wooden shoes, an orange Holland t-shirt, chocolates, and various other goodies. The Philosophe was right next to Vondel Park, Amsterdam's most famous park. Mom wanted to go on a walk, but I was super tired. So she got the BiPAP working and placed its snout on me. I hated talking with that thing on, but I said, "Just go to the park and I'll call you when I wake up." "Okay," she says. "Sleep tight, honey." But when I woke up some hours later, she was sitting in the ancient leather chair in the corner, reading a guidebook. "Morning," I said. "Actually, late afternoon," she answered, pushing herself out of the chair with a sigh. She came to the bed, placed 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 the tank placed the tank in the cart, and connected it to the tube while I took off the BiPAP snout and placed the nubbins into my nose. She set it for 2.5 liters a minute, 6 hours before I'd need a change. And then I got up. How are you feeling? She asked. Good, I said. Great. How was the Vondel Park? I skipped it, she said. Read all about it in the guidebook, though. Mom, I said, you didn't have to stay here. She shrugged. I know, I wanted to. I like watching you sleep. Said the creeper. She laughed, but I still felt bad. I just want you to have fun or whatever, you know? Okay, I'll have fun tonight, okay? I'll go do I'll go do crazy mom stuff while you and Augustus go to dinner. Without you? I asked. Yes, without me, in fact. You have reservations at a place called Orangey, she said. Mr. Van Houten's assistant set it up. It's in this neighborhood called the Jordan. Very fancy. According to the guidebook, there's a tram station right around the corner. Augustus has directions. You can eat outside. Watch the boats go by. It'll be lovely, very romantic. Mom, I'm just saying, she said. You should get dressed. The sundress, matey. One might marvel at the insanity of the situation. A mother sends her 16-year-old daughter alone with a 17-year-old boy out into a foreign city famous for its permissiveness. But this, too, was a side effect of dying. I could not run or dance or eat foods rich in nitrogen. But in the city of freedom, I was among the most liberated of its residents. Liberated of its residents. I did indeed wear the sundress. This blue print, flowy knee-length, forever 21 thing, with tights and Mary Janes because I liked being quite a lot shorter than him. I went into the hilariously tiny bathroom and battled my bath head for a while until everything looked suitably mid-2000s Natalie Portman. At 6 p.m. on the dot, noon back home, there was a knock. Hello? I sat through the door. There was no peephole at the Hotel Philosophe. Okay, Augustus answered. I could hear the cigarette in his mouth. I looked down at myself. The sundress offered the most in the way of my rib cage and collarbone that Augustus had seen. It wasn't obscene or anything, but it was as close as I ever got at showing some skin. My mother had a motto on this front that I agreed with. Lancasters don't bear midriffs.